up, peeps? Been a while since I did a video. I've been off work for a little bit. There's a reason for that, which is what I'm going over and explains the title of the video. Real quick though, I don't know if KB Smooth, he's a dedicated dart driver. Been going through some issues of his own. Just like to say real quick, hey man, glad to see you're doing better. Keep going at it. Glad to see you back in the truck. Wishing you the best, man. But you know, as the title of this video shows, it's about sleep apnea. And I know for a lot of drivers, that's not a subject they like to think about. But just my experience, you know, whenever I did a DOT physical, even when I was a little heavier than I am now, which, you know, I'm not obese, but, you know, I could be a few pounds lighter. You know, the last thing you wanted a DOT physical doctor to tell you was you had to go for a sleep study. Because now it's another level of oversight that you got to deal with, and as a driver, we deal with more than we should in the first place. But this right here, this isn't just oversight. This can actually benefit you greatly. So if you have any inkling that what I'm talking about might apply to you, please get checked out. Please, because it can be that bad. And trust me, the difference once you're diagnosed, if it's anything like mine, it's 180 degrees today than it was just a couple weeks ago. But what is sleep apnea? Sleep apnea is disruption in your breathing while you're sleeping. And that depends on how many times it happens. If it's just maybe one or two times a whole night, that's not an issue. But if it's a few dozen times an hour, that can create a huge issue, and that's what I've experienced. You know, it's like anything else. You get used to things. It feels normal because it's gradually crept up on you, and you really don't notice it, but you do notice it. But it's not, you know, not a big deal. Until it gets to a certain point, and then it starts getting to, you know, bad enough to where you can tell this is not normal anymore. And that's what happened to me. It gradually, you know, you just, I'm just getting older. You know, I'm getting older. Well, that ain't always the case, even though I am getting older. But yeah, just a quick couple of numbers. Estimated people in America that suffer from sleep apnea is about 22 million. And they estimate about 38,000 people die, not just from sleep apnea, but the complications that sleep apnea can cause if you have other conditions. Some of the conditions that sleep apnea can cause: heart attack, because it puts a lot of strain on your heart. Stroke, it can cause a stroke. High blood pressure. I take a low dose high blood pressure pill because I'm borderline. I'm right there at the 140 mark, or have been. Haven't been in a while since I started taking that little pill, but I would rather not take the pill. And this sleep apnea can actually cause high blood pressure. So I'm hoping that now that my body is able, you know, to get better, that I won't have to use that anymore either. And I could still, again, afford to lose a couple pounds. And cardiac arrhythmia, you know, your heart fluttering or not beating normal, it can contribute to that, cause that. And it can also reduce your life expectancy by about 8 to 18 years, depending on other factors. Symptoms, and this is where it really got me. Fatigue, depression, irritability, memory and learning difficulties, lack of concentration, lack of bedroom interest, headaches, dry mouth. That's just some of the symptoms that it can cause. And that's, you know, those I was dealing with, and it got to the point where they were just taking me out. Fatigue. I was waking up in the morning and thinking about a nap, so that's not good. Depression. I don't know if I had depression, but I had no motivation for nothing. I didn't care. Irritability. Everything was making me mad. Everything. It didn't matter what it was. A fly could land on my windshield, and it pissed me off. I mean, it got that petty, and that was not normal for me. The lack of concentration. I was dealing with that. I mean, I would catch myself zoning out, and it's like, no, that's not normal for me. And again, that's not just old age. I'm not just, if that's the case, then I don't need to be driving anyway. I don't need to be driving if that's going to be normal for me. And from what I can tell just over the last couple of weeks of what I've been going through, it's not normal. So what happened is, two things happened that related to this. The first one, a month and a half ago, 2 months, I took a load to Texas. When I got there, I was already feeling bad. I mean, what I was noticing was the longer I stayed out on the road, the worse I would feel. And I'd go home for a couple of days, and I'd feel a little better and jump back in the truck, and then, over time, and it just, the short weekends doubled with, being out a couple weeks, I wasn't resting at all. I wasn't getting any sleep per se, and not good sleep. So I got to Texas. I wasn't feeling great. Got up the next morning. I just felt like dog Duke, and I let them know, hey, I need to take a day off. Didn't feel good. I was calling it the flu. So I took the day off. Next day I felt a little better. Went back to work, and just kept pushing through. And then about a month ago, I took another load to the same customer in Texas. Back at the same pilot. I woke up the next morning and I was done. I was literally done. And I let my DM know, hey, I got to take another day. I said, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like crap again. I got to take another day. By the end of the day, I knew I was not going to be able to drive the next day. It was over for me. I could have stayed in that truck in Texas for a month, and wouldn't probably have mattered. So I took a second day off. They were great about it. But on the second day, I finally made the decision, I got to go home. I got to figure out what's going on. I got to get this fixed. This is not going to work for me. I'm either going to kill myself or I'm going to kill somebody. So I told them, hey, I got to go home. And they got me a load to the house. Or not to the house. They got me a load back to the terminal, because I knew it was going to be a couple weeks. Because without medical insurance, this was all going to be paid for directly out of my pocket. And I knew it wasn't going to be a quick go to the doctor, a couple tests, and here's your thing, and whatever, or here's what's wrong, here's a pill, whatever it was, and on my way. It wasn't going to work like that. So they got me a load back to the terminal. I went through the house, dropped off all my gear, took the truck and trailer back to the terminal, which from here is only 4 hours, and come back home. Well, when I got back home, I started doing searches, putting in the symptoms I was dealing with and the things I was seeing. And at the top of the list for everything that I kept looking at was sleep apnea. So I was like, well, then, I've always snored. Over the last few years, it has gotten worse, according to my wife. So I said, I'm gonna figure out how to get a sleep study done. So I looked online, and I did find a company, and I'm not endorsing them, but I've had good success with them to this point, so I'm not gonna. But again, they don't know me other than what we've done, and I don't know them other than what I've seen so far. But their website is rpmhst.com. They do a home sleep study. It's $150. It is legit. I know for a fact it's legit. I'm doing it right now. Or I've already done that part, but I'm going through the steps to get back into the seat, so I know it's legit. They are DOT compliant. But for $150, they send you the equipment, and you got a monitor straps on here, and then you got some other things that stick on, and the thing goes over your finger for heart rate and all that good stuff. And you sleep with it for the night, and then the next morning you get up, you box it up in their box, and you put the tag on it that they send with it, so that you don't have to pay any postage sending it back, and you send it back to them. It took 3 days for me to get the results. Normally they can tell you it can take 4 to 7 or whatever. It took them 3 days. So, and a doctor actually looks at the results. That's who actually evaluates it. So when it comes to sleep apnea, they have different levels of severity. 0 to 15 is, slight. You have a little bit of sleep apnea. You're stopping breathing, a few times a night. Anywhere from 0 to 15 times an hour, which they consider not that bad. That's the better side of sleep apnea. Then they have moderate, which is 16 to 30, and that's not good. That's not the worst, but it's not the best. And then you have above 30, which is bad. You're not breathing more than you're breathing when you get that high, per se. But my report came back. I was at 29.7, 0.3 more, and I would have been in the severe range. So I was right there. I was borderline. So it's not good, and that's what's contributing to what I'm dealing with. So at this point now, their prescription is you need a machine. You need a CPAP machine or a surgery. You have to go see a doctor. They may be able to do some surgeries to open you up a little bit. And then again, they may not. It just depends on what's actually causing your sleep apnea. But a CPAP machine or an APAP is what I have, because mine's adjustable pressure. It adjusts on its own. But, the machine is something you got that you can get, and it'll make you breathe. So I knew I needed a machine, but the cost can be prohibitive, depending. So first obviously I went and looked for used machines on like Craigslist, and there's plenty of them on there. Problem is I have a CDL in my pocket, and as long as I have the CDL in my pocket, I have to be DOT compliant, which means I have to have a machine that's monitorable. And if I don't have a machine that they can monitor, I won't be in compliance. And if I'm not in compliance, I can't drive. So what I did is, I went back to the company I did the sleep study through. They do offer machines. They had a program where you could pay $300 down, $50 a month. Machine was $550 total. So I did that. Got the machine, and I'll show you a picture of it up here somewhere. It's called a Dream Station, and it has a tank on it that's heated water, humidified water, so that you don't get dried out. And it has a modem in the side, and what that does is it transmits your usage to them, which it's lifetime monitoring with this machine. Probably the other machines too, but I didn't look at them too far. But it's lifetime monitoring for the machine, and if you needed, to prove compliance that you're using it for DOT or a physical, you call them up and you just tell them the date range that you need the report for, and they'll email it to you just like that. I've done it twice, and they've emailed it immediately. So you got to use the machine at least 70% of the time. And you got a minimum of 4 hours a night to be in compliance with DOT. The other information on that is, one thing I was not aware of, and the information is vague at best. As the requirements for the compliance, or how long you got to use it before you can go back driving, blah blah blah. There's a couple of different train of thought. I was told by others that you could do 7 days, your first 7 days, get a compliance report, and go get a physical for 45 days. I did 7 days, went and got a physical, and the doctor that did it, obviously wasn't aware of the rules, gave me a 1-year DOT physical. I wasn't in compliance. They should have never given me that physical. So, again, not everybody's going to know everything. But if you're a DOT physician and sleep apnea being the issue that it is, you think that information would be something that'd be knowledge that you would have. So I couldn't go back drive because I still wouldn't be in compliance. If I got an overzealous officer that really loved his job and he looked at it serious enough and started comparing dates, it would show that I wasn't on it long enough to get a 1-year physical, and I would not be compliant, and I could have been put out of service for that. But what I've done now is I'm going to go a full 30 days. Then I'll go show 30 days of compliance without driving, and then I can get back out there and go back to work. The DOT physicals, I've always dealt with them as a 1-year thing because of the blood pressure issue. But so it'll still be 1-year physicals at a time. 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. Which, whatever. It's not a big deal to go get a DOT physical once a year, especially now that sleep apnea is out in the open and I ain't got to worry about them finding something. But yeah, I mean, it got bad. It got bad. And anyone that's dealing with any of these symptoms, and if you notice it's gotten worse, get checked. And I've given you the information of someone that can make it more affordable rather than, if it comes out of your pocket, even if you have insurance with a high deductible, it's more affordable. And another route is you can do the sleep study at home for $150, which is a lot cheaper than a lab. And if you got high deductibles, it's going to cost you. But what can happen is once you have the sleep study done, to get the machine, you can take that report to your doctor, and he can actually write you a prescription for the CPAP machine. And if your insurance covers that, then that's less money out of your pocket. But this is by far the cheapest way. And the last 2 weeks I've been using this machine, and trust me, it's made a difference, and it's getting better every day. It's noticeable. Just like anything else. If you've been doing something wrong for a long time, like smoking cigarettes, and you stop smoking, your body's going to start healing. It's not going to be an overnight process, but you are going to start feeling better. And it's just like the same thing with this. I've noticed it's getting better. It's definitely a lot better than it was a couple weeks ago. And it'll get better and better and better and better. I mean, granted, this is not like, the golden bullet. It's not going to solve all, if you got other medical issues, it's not going to solve everything, having this figured out. But what it can do is make the other things not as bad. But, just the sleeping. You can't get it back. Your body's never going to get back what it lost. But you're not losing anymore. So that's a good thing. But that's the video. If you got any questions or comments about it, trust me, I've spent a month now going over this stuff. If I don't know the answer, I can definitely direct you to the right place to figure it out. Because when you go on FMCSA site, I mean, it took me forever just to verify how long I needed to be in compliance on the machine to get a regular physical or a regular DOT certification, medical certification. So, I mean, drop a comment, but please share this out. This I'm hoping will help some people. It's not something to be afraid of. It's not something to run away from. This can be a big benefit to you. If you're dealing with any of this, it is another hoop to jump through when you got to get your certification. But if you're doing it, it's not that much more. Because all you're doing now, after you get through all the medical part, all you're doing is using the machine, and all you got to do at that point is prove compliance. That's it. That's it. And I don't know about you, but I'm not planning on driving forever. So once I quit driving, it doesn't matter anymore. But I will still use the machine because I know what a benefit it's been for me. So it is what it is. And I appreciate you taking the time and watching this. Again, share it out. Family, friends, anybody you can. I would appreciate it because I think it's useful information. I hope you do too. You guys be safe, and we'll talk to you.